2.8 two-variable inequalities. Let's kind of review real quick. We've got 4 different basic shapes to look at. So A looks like a line, going to look something like that. B is a parabola, going to look something like that. And C, absolute value, V shape, and D, square root, looks like this. So we've got those basic shapes. Now we're going to talk about shading. So look at the 4 graphs on part 2, number 2. Tell which equality or inequality symbol was used for each graph. How can you tell? I can tell each of them immediately by looking at it. Part A is definitely going to be a greater than or equal symbol. You can tell greater than because the thing is shaded up and you can see a solid line. The next one is definitely a greater than symbol. You're still shading up, but this time it's dotted. The next one is a less than or equal symbol. You can see it's shaded down, but you see a solid line. So the next one is just less than. We're still shading down below the line, but it is a dotted line. So those are the 4 shadings that you'll see. Learn the difference. Greater than or equal, greater than, less than or equal, less than. Next thing we have to do is be able to identify the vertex. So we can tell that this equation is a parabola because we see the x squared, but we really want to know where the vertex is. That's kind of important. So there's a formula for that, negative b over 2a. And you might remember that from some other time. But the vertex is going to be negative b over 2a, comma, something. And that's whatever we get when we plug in. So the b and the a come from the coefficients. The number in front of the x squared is the a coefficient, and the number in front of the x is the b coefficient, and then this number over here is c. So it goes a, b, c. So we don't really need the c, but we plug in the a and the b numbers. We go negative b number over 2 times the a number. Clean that up. That's negative 16 over 2, which is negative 8. So that is the first part of our vertex. To find the second part, we just take that negative 8 and we plug it into the equation. So look at your equation, and you've got something squared plus 16 times something plus 70. And every time I see an x, I put parentheses. And what you're going to do is you're going to put that negative 8 inside those parentheses. So use a calculator. Let the calculator do all the heavy lifting. You got negative 8 squared, use the parentheses, plus 16 times negative 8 plus 70. Equals 6. So that goes here. That's your vertex. That's that low point on your parabola. So then let's do it again. This is A is 3 and B is negative 36. So negative B, so that's negative 36 over 2 times the A number. Negative 36, that's positive 36. 2 times 3 is 6. 36 over 6 is 6. So my vertex is going to look like 6 comma something. And that something is going to be when I plug in my 6. So look at your equation. 3 times something squared minus 36 times that something plus 110. And I'm going to put in that 6 from before. And I'm absolutely going to use a calculator. 3 times 6 squared minus 36 times 6 plus 110 equals 2. There's my vertex. So put all that together. We've got our basic shapes, and we can shade, and we can find a vertex. We should be able to do about anything. Now, number 5, sketch the graph of each inequality. You should be able to recognize immediately that number 5 is going to be a line. There's no x squared. It's not a parabola. It's not an absolute value. It's just a line. You've got an x in it. That's all. But what you need to pay attention to is this symbol, greater than or equals. Well, the equals tells me it's going to be a solid line. I know it's going to be solid. And the greater than tells me to shade up. So let's do that. We look at the equation part, and that looks like mx plus b, so graph it like you would any other line. Point at -1, and then go up 1 and over 3, and up 1 and over 3, or down and left, down and left. I would highly recommend you do as many points as you can. Now, they're my points, but go back to what we said before. We know there's going to be a solid line through there, and we're going to shade up above. All right, so what you're going to do is just kind of color in this whole region up above the graph. Now, what we've just done is we've colored in a picture of all of the solutions. This is full of a whole bunch of ordered pairs, xy points all over the place. Too many to count. And so if you were trying to solve this equation, there'd be no way to name all of the points. And so that's why we draw a picture. We just drew a picture of all of the points. Moving on, same thing. I can tell this one's going to be a line, but you look at this symbol and it says less than. Okay, just look at the symbol, less than. So that means it's really going to be a dotted line. There's no equals, so it's dotted, and less than means to shade down. So it's going to be a dotted line, and I'm going to shade down. Keep that in mind. We want to graph this thing like we'd graph any other line. Start at -2, and then give it a slope. Your slope is going to be 2 over 1. So we start at -2, and we go up 2 and over 1, and up 2 and over 1, and up 2 and over 1, up 2 and over 1, or down 2 and left 1, down 2 and left 1. Again, I would fill up the graph with dots. Trust me, just do it. And then go back and remember that it's supposed to be a dotted line. So let's draw a dotted or dashed line, either way you want to look at it. And then we're going to shade down. So we shade down below the line. We're coloring in this whole region, make it look nice. And what we're doing is coloring in a picture of all the solutions. 7 and 8 are kind of special. You need to learn this, but when it says something like this one's going to be a vertical line. Go over there to where x equals 4 and think about it. Okay, that tick mark right there is x equals 4, but think about if you drew a big, huge, long tick mark. It's going to be a vertical line representing x equals 4. Now we still look at the symbol, and it says equal, so I know equals means it's going to be a solid line. Let's try that again. Solid line. Now, this is the only one where it doesn't make sense. Okay, this is definitely solid. It doesn't make sense to say we're going to shade above because that's a vertical line. But it doesn't have to make sense there because we're not talking about y numbers. We're talking about x numbers. And we want to look for x numbers that are bigger than 4, like 5 and 6. So we're actually, since this is x, we're not shading to above, we're shading to the right. Okay, that's where the x numbers are bigger than 4. So color in right there. That's the only one that's different. The one that starts with an x is the only one that's different. Number 8, y is greater than -3. Go down here on the y-axis to -3. It's going to be a horizontal line. We see the greater than, and so we know it's going to be a dotted line, and we're going to shade up above. So do that. And draw a dotted line. And then we're going to shade everything above that line. We're coloring that in, make it look nice. What we're doing is we're shading in all of these points, all of these ordered pairs. Number 9. Number 9 you should recognize pretty quickly that it's going to be a parabola. You see an x squared. Oops, you also see a negative sign, so that means it's going to flip. It's going to be an upside down parabola. But what we really want is we want to be able to find that vertex. If we can find that vertex, then graphing is going to be easy. So remember our formula, negative b over 2a, comma, something. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to plug those numbers in. Remember, the a number is the number that's in front of the x squared, so that's -1. The b number is this number in front of the x. So I would see the opposite of 6 over 2 times -1. That's -6 over -2, which is 3. So my vertex then is going to be 3, comma, something. And you have to take that 3 and you have to plug that into your equation. So the equation says negative something squared plus 6 times that something minus 6. And we plug in our 3. And by all means, use a calculator here. Make sure you use parentheses where you need them. Otherwise, weird stuff happens. I get 3. So my result here is 3. And my vertex is the point 3, comma 3. So let's graph that. 3, comma 3. Boom. Right there. Now, help yourself out and remember the 1, 3, 5 pattern. Okay? We know this thing is going to go down. It's a 1, 3, 5 pattern, so we should be able to go down 1 and over 1 and down 3 and over 1, and we've got those dots, just like a previous lesson. All right, don't get in too big of a hurry because you still have to worry about your shading. Greater than. Greater than means we're going to shade up, but also since it's not equal to, we know it's going to be a dotted line. So we draw a dotted line through these dots and make it look as good as you can. But there we go. We've got a nice dotted parabola, and we're going to shade up above it. Some people will say that means outside of the parabola. I don't really like thinking of it that way. I would rather say it's shading up. Number 10, we can see it's a parabola. So we do the same thing. Negative b over 2 times a. That's -6 over 2 is -3. -3. So plug that into your equation. You're going to have something squared plus 6 times something plus 6. And we plug in that -3 that we just found. Hang on. Parentheses. -3, close them, squared, plus 6, parentheses, -3 goes in there, plus 6. And we get -3. Okay, so my vertex, when I plug in this number, -3, I got out -3. That's my vertex. So we graph -3, -3 right there. And then we do our 1, 3, 5 pattern again. So this time it's going up. So go up 1 and up 3. 1, 2, 3. Those are my dots. Don't forget about your inequality, though. Less than or equal. The equals tells me that it's a solid line. And the less than tells me to shade down. Number 11, same thing. It's still going to be a parabola. It's a parabola that opens down because of that negative. So we do our negative b over 2a. -4 over 2 times -2. That's -4 over -4 is 1. So plug in that 1. You got -2 times the 1 that we just have squared plus 4 times that 1 minus 1. Calculator. And we get 1. So that means my vertex is 1, 1. 1, 1. Now, here's something that's different. We know our parabola is going to be 1, 3, 5, but because of this number in the front, the -2, specifically the 2, what's going to happen is we double the pattern. It's kind of like slope, but it doubles our pattern. And so instead of 1, 3, 5, it's actually going to be 2, 6, 10. Everything happens pretty much the same, but it's just doubled. So we start from that vertex. We were right here, and we're going to go down 2 and over 1, and then down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and over 1. So the result is just a really steep parabola. And don't forget about your inequality. Greater than or equals. Greater than or equals. Well, we know the equals means that it's going to be solid. And the greater than part tells me to shade up above. Okay, that's the hard part. Now, number 12 gets a little bit easier because it's a different shape. You see absolute value bars, so you should remember that that's going to be a V shape. We can do transformations on this. Remember that x plus 1 told me that it's going to be left 1, and that means down 5. So if you go left 1 and down 5, that's where that vertex is. Left 1 and down 5. Now we've got a V shape. So basically we just go up 1 and right 1 and up 1 and right 1 and up 1. Up 1 and over 1, up 1 and over 1. Kind of like that. Okay, so we've got that. But we look at our inequality. Less than or equals. Again, less than or equals. We see the equal, so that means solid. The less than means shade down. Sorry, excuse me. Next one, still a V shape. Okay, and inside here, you don't move to the left or to the right. Remember what I said? I said what makes that 0 is 0. So we don't really go left or right. We're just going to go up 1. So up 1. But what is kind of weird about this is this number 3 in the front, that acts like the slope. So instead of just going up 1 and over 1, we're going to go up 3. 1, 2, 3, and over 1. 1, 2, 3, and over 1. So we have kind of a steep V shape. Again, we look for the inequality symbol, and that says greater than. And greater than, since there's no equal sign, I know that's dotted. So let's make a dotted line here. A dotted V shape, that is. And then the greater than tells me to shade up. So I'm going to shade up from that, which turns out to be inside here. But let's call it up. Next one, V shape, but the negative sign flips it. So we know it's going to be a inverted V shape. This tells me to go what, left 2 and up 3. So let's do that. Left 2 and up 3. There's my vertex. Now there's no number in the front, so we just keep it a slope of down 1 and over 1. Make sure it goes down like we said, down 1 and over 1, down 1 and over 1. It looks like that. We look at our inequality symbol, less than. There's no equal sign, so we know that means dotted. So give it a dotted line. Wow, that is terrible. Let's try that again. A little bit better, I guess. dotted line, and less than, so we're going to shade down. We shade down below like this. There you go.